Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Embroidery Hub. My name is Willy, and you probably heard the saying that there's more than one way to skin a cat, right? Well, I'm here to tell you that the same holds true for adhering patches on a cap. So in this episode, I'm going to show you the ways that you can adhere patches on a cap. The first way is by stitching the patch onto the cap using our embroidery machine, and the second way is by using our heat press to heat transfer the patch onto the cap. I'm going to walk you through each one and demonstrate how easy they are to do. Also, I'll go over some of the advantages of each method so you can decide which one you prefer. But before we get started, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe to our channel to watch me do more projects like this one. All right, let's jump right in. All right guys, these are the materials we're going to be using today. We have a regular hoops. I'm using the E size today. We have some fabric. Now this fabric I just found in the warehouse because it's really thick. That's the reason why I'm using it. But you could always use a cutaway stabilizer or any other fabric that you might like for any patches. So here I have my adhesive sheet, which I'm going to be using it to adhere the patch onto the cap. Now here I have my Teflon sheet, which I'm going to be using to protect the embroidery and to disperse the heat evenly. Also, I'm going to be using my regular size scissors and these little ones with the little curve in them to just help me get as close as I possibly can to this patch. And I'm going to be using our lighter to clean up the edge of the patch. Now last but not least, I have my Fast Tack, which is an adhesive spray that I can use, or you can easily use the Scotch tape to hold the patch down. And obviously you're going to be needing a cap. Okay, so for a heat press today, I'm going to be using the HP 0408 model. This is one of the newest models. Now this one is specifically meant for caps. Now it has a really nice feature where once it's done, it'll automatically open itself up so that it doesn't get any extra heat onto the cap or into any adhesive piece that you're putting in there. It does have a really nice cool display, which is touchscreen, so that's another cool feature about it. If you guys want to learn more about this heat press, scroll down to the description below. I will have a video there for you. All right, so for our embroidery machine, I'm going to be using the MT1501. This is the Ricoma 15 needle machine. Now, we recently done a couple of videos in the past where we've done a bunch of caps in these machines, and they're all Richardson 112s. If you guys want to see those videos, scroll down to the description below. And if you want to learn more about the machine, also scroll down to the description below. Now let's jump into a profit potential for both the embroidery or sewing method and the heat transfer method. If we use the heat transfer method, you will need to purchase the adhesive transfer sheet. But if you decide to embroider it, you do not need to spend on any extra because you will be using the same thread that you already have. Now, I purchased the adhesive sheet in a Joann's store for $3.99 a yard, and the fabric I'm using was a scrap from a previous video, but you can use a thick cutaway stabilizer, which you can also purchase in a Joann's store for $7.99 a yard. Now for the cap, you can find them for around $3.50. As a reminder, you can always buy these materials cheaper if you purchase them wholesale. So your initial investment will be $15.48. We've seen these caps sell for around $25 and up depending on the design. Now our total initial profit for the heat transfer method is $9.52. But remember, you can do multiple patches out of 1 yard of adhesive paper and stabilizer. For the sewing and embroidery method, your initial investment will be $7.49, and if you sell the cap for $25, you'll make a profit of $17.51. Now you may ask, when would I use the heat transfer method and when would I use the embroidery method? The difference between these two is that when you embroider or sew the patch on, the patch will have a longer lifetime, but it's more time consuming. When you heat transfer it on, the process is a lot quicker, but with time, the patch could potentially fall off. So first up, we have to embroider our patches, and for that, the first step is hooping. First thing we're gonna need is going to be the bottom piece of the hoop, and then we're going to put the fabric on top, just like this. Once you do that, all you have to do is put the top piece of the hoop and make sure it's nice and tight in there. All right, very simple. Let's go ahead now and put it in the machine. If you'd like to see similar projects we've done in the past, check out our other videos by clicking on the links in the description below or by clicking on the cards above. Let me know in the comments below if you use any of these methods and which one is your favorite. Also, let us know in the comments below what other projects you would like us to do in future videos. All right, so let's go ahead and put our hoop in the machine. Let's make sure it's nice and locked in there. Now let's go over to a monitor and choose our design. So I'm gonna click on the file option. Then I'm gonna scroll down and look for my design. It's the eagle. And I'm gonna press the OK. Now I've already saved it from my USB to my machine. So all I have to do is just press the OK button. All right, now once I'm there, since I'm going to be doing a patch, I want to get two done at the same time. This is a really cool feature that this machine has, that you can go and multiply your designs without having to redigitize it. So I'm going to choose this option here, which is gonna multiply it side to side. And I'm going to choose 2 and press the OK. And now I want to give it some space. And the way I do that is by clicking on this option. And let's say I want maybe 70 millimeters away, so it's 70.0. Press the enter button, and now I'm going to choose my hoop, which is an E size, and now I'm going to press OK. All right, now I have my designs in here. Let's go into the color steps. And now I've already done this design in the past, so my color sequence has already been saved. That's good to go. Let's press the OK button. And now the last thing to do will be mainly to recenter and lock our machine. And now that I think is in the middle, I'm just going to press the trace button. So once I press the trace button, I'm going to be looking physically at needle number 1 to make sure that the needle does not go over the hoop. Now I'm going to be running this at 1,000 stitches a minute, so let me go ahead and run it all the way up. Okay guys, so we're all set now. We are in the center of the hoop. So I'm going to be using a 75 by 11 size needle, and I'm going to be using for the thread a 60 weight thread. We're going to be doing 2 patches. Each one is around 16,000 stitches, so we have a total of 33,000 stitches. It should take us around 35 minutes to complete. All right, so let's go ahead and press the start button and let the machine do its thing. All right, awesome. They look great. So let's go ahead and take the hoop out and cut around them. Okay, so let's go ahead and unhoop them. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut just a square around them. And then I'm going to use these small scissors because they have a little curve to them, so I can get real nice and close to it. Okay, so I'm just going to clean the back up really quickly. All right, so now I'm just going to use a lighter to clean up the edges. This is going to burn up any loose threads. So I'm going to be using an embroidery machine, but you can also use a sewing machine. Like for example, the FYA10, which is the model that we use here in Ricoma. If you want to learn more about the sewing machine, go down to the description below. There's going to be a link there for you. All right, so now let's go ahead and attach one of these to the cap using the embroidery machine. All right, so let's go over the digitizing needed to attach a patch to the cap using the embroidery machine. To digitize, I will be using the Ricoma Lux. If you want to learn more about this digitizing software, go down to the link in the description below. Now I got this design from Hoopmade. If you guys want to learn more about Hoopmade and get designs like these, scroll down to the link in the description below. The main thing that we have to digitize to make this happen is the trace stitch that the machine will first do on the cap, allowing us to see where to place the patch, and then the tack down and run stitch to fully attach the patch on the cap. I'm also making the border wider by using the pull and push compensation option and raising it to 130%. Now the reason why I'm doing this is to eliminate any room for error when placing the patch down on the cap and aligning it to the trace stitch. Now remember, when embroidering a patch, the size may decrease by just a little, so make sure you make both the trace stitch and the tack down stitch smaller than the border. All right, so I'm just gonna be hooping the cap now. If you guys wanna learn how to hoop a cap, we have videos on that. You can scroll down to the description below. We'll have a video there for you. All right, so I already installed my cap driver, which is what drives my cap. If you guys want to learn more about the cap driver and how to install it, go down to the description below. Now let me go ahead and put in my cap. Make sure I'm nice and tight in here. All right, guys, so now that we're done with this part, for the embroidery method, now what I'm going to do is unlock my machine, going to go back to my files, and I'm going to choose the other file that I have, which is the circle file. Now I'm going to press the OK button, and this has a tray stitch, and then it has a tack down stitch, which is what's going to attach the patch to the cap. And now for the next step is just selecting our cap hoop. Now the design looks pretty centered already since we just selected the hoop. Now let me go into the color steps, and I'm going to be choosing two color steps. One is the tray stitch, and then the other will be the tack down stitch. So I'm going to be choosing for the first one, which is going to be my tray stitch. I'm going to be choosing red, which is number 3. And for a tack down stitch, I'm going to choose needle number 11, which is black on my machine. Since the tray stitch will let me know where to put my patch on the cap, I chose the color red so that it can stand out against the black cap. This way I can see it better. And for my tack down stitch, I wanted to blend with my border. So my border is black, so that's why I chose 11, which is black. Now before I save this, I want to make sure that I have the frame out option on the first step. What this is going to do, after the machine finishes this color step, the machine will automatically stop. It'll bring out the cap, allowing me to place my patch on it. Then I will hold down the patch with either tape or adhesive spray. After that, I will just press the start button and let the machine finish. Now all I have to do is press the OK button. It'll take me back to my home page. All right, so now I'm gonna make sure that I'm centered physically on the cap by looking at the needle number 1. And with my arrow keys, I'm going to be going over to the center seam. And then now that I know that I'm in the center seam, I'm going to trace to make sure that I don't hit any metal parts of the hoop or that it doesn't go too high on my cap. And all we have to do now is press the start button. Okay, so I'm gonna put a piece of stabilizer just so I don't spray the adhesive spray on my table. So this is the patch. I'm gonna turn it upside down, get my adhesive, and just spray it. All right, that's it. Let's go ahead and grab it and take it to the machine. Okay, now I'm gonna put my patch right on top and make sure that I'm on the center. All right, so now I'm just holding it down for just a few seconds so that the patch can take hold. All right, so we're ready to press the start button. All right, so that's it. Let's go ahead and take it out. All right, so for the heat transfer method, I've adjusted my heat to 380 Fahrenheit and my time to 30 seconds. Now the first thing I have to do is just get a regular piece of fabric and just place it on top of the pad. The reason why I'm doing this is so that I don't damage the pad with the adhesive. Then I'm going to put the patch down, facing down, and I'm going to use the adhesive part of the paper and place it on top of the back piece of the patch. Now all I have to do is close down my heat press. All right, so what I want to do now is make sure that my patch gets cooled down first so I can be able to take off the adhesive sheet. So I'm going to place it to the side. All right, so it's been about 2 minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and peel it off now. And now all the excess adhesive, I'm just gonna peel it off. Now I'm going to place my cap inside my heat press and make sure that it's nice and tight onto the pad. Now I'll be placing my patch on top of the cap, right in the center. And on top of the patch, I'll be placing my Teflon sheet. The Teflon sheet is going to help the heat disperse evenly over the patch. Now I'm gonna press it for 30 seconds at 380 degrees Fahrenheit. All right, and that's it. All right guys, so I'm wearing the heat transfer cap, and here is the embroider cap. To be honest with you, I like the heat transfer a lot better because it really shows the full design. With the embroider one, I like it too. It's just that you have the stitching that's going around it, but it's just a personal preference. To be honest, if I'm trying to do a lot of caps, I'll definitely go with this method instead of the embroider method. But definitely this will last a lot longer than the heat transfer, just because the stitches that are holding on to the actual patch. And I think sewing is right in the middle between heat transferred and embroidered. So the heat transfer is a lot quicker. The embroidery, it takes a little longer because you have to make sure that you're on the right location. But when you're doing sewing, you could actually just control the cap and manipulate where that needle and the stitches are gonna be. So in conclusion, the heat transfer is way faster, but it doesn't have a long lifetime. Now the embroidery, it takes a little longer, but it's definitely gonna last a long time. So that's why I would definitely go with the embroidery. And just to make things quicker, I will just use a sewing machine. Alright guys, I hope this episode helped you get a better understanding of the two ways you can adhere your patch onto a cap, by either using the embroidery and sewing machine method or by heat pressing it on. They each have their pros and cons, so ultimately it's up to you to decide which one is right for you. Now before you go, I just want to remind you that you can connect with other apparel decorators like myself by joining our free Facebook group, Embroidery and Custom Apparel Mastery. Once you join this online community of apparel decorators, you can ask any questions you might have about embroidery, starting a custom apparel shop, and anything else you need help with. And to get the latest info in the world of decorated apparel, make sure you follow us on our Instagram page at Ricoma HQ. Alright guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.